Charlotte Football Insiders. My name is Cherie Glenn. That's Matt Morrow. We're going to talk about the IMECK conference. Hopewell is 2-2, and they're going up against Huff. Last game, they won over West MEC 35-21. Hopewell, and then Huff lost to Myers Park 68-21. And Matt, what are your thoughts about Hopewell at Huff?
All right, well, it's conference time. It's money time. Everything counts now. If you want to go somewhere, you got to get it done now. Hopewell, player to watch is A.J. Simpkins. Had a huge game in their win over West MEC. Threw for over 400 yards, multiple touchdown passes. Very impressive game. For Huff, the guy to watch is Storm Monroe. He's a really good linebacker. He's a big 22 guy. Very talented, can play the run, can play the pass. He's going to be a big piece in that Huff defense trying to slow down the Hopewell air raid offense. When you look at this one, Hopewell's riding high. And, the stigma with them is they have been down for the past couple of years, but there's something this year that's different. They've kind of taken that personally, and they're starting to make, some inroads into becoming a much better team. And I think the first thing for Huff is you can't take them lightly. Huff has played some tough teams. Burns down South Carolina, just played Myers Park, lost to Butler in the season opener. Your tendency might be to relax a little bit, but they gotta, come out and be ready to go. Step on the gas and be eager to, turn around what's been, somewhat of a disappointment in, probably their eyes and some other people's eyes as well. I think for Hopewell, anytime you play Huff, we talk about talent. You got to be smart, especially on defense. Tackle well in space. Don't let those guys, slip a tackle and go 60 yards on you. Make them earn it. Make them, go down in the field in short bursts and chunks. If you limit big plays, you want to stay in the game, keep that game going longer and stay in it until the fourth quarter. And then, if you're in it in the fourth quarter, man, anything can happen. So this is not, the same Hopewell team that, everyone has been accustomed to knowing the past couple of years. And that's a kudos to Coach Bird and all those guys on that coaching staff and those players that have worked hard and are starting to turn things around a little bit.
Mallard Creek 3-0-1 travels to Vance. They're 3-0. Last week, Mallard Creek won over Gaffney 27-20, and Vance won over South MEC 49-7. What are your thoughts there?
First of all, this is the game of the week, game of the month, game of the year.
Yeah, it's a big game.
Two powerhouse programs, a traditional, rivalry. Last year, we were at the big kickoff night event at UNC Charlotte. It was a great environment, great game. Mallard Creek did pull that out in their last matchup. Mallard Creek is coming off the bye. They did beat Gaffney 2 weeks ago. That was a very, intense game down in South Carolina, a great environment down there. Coming off the bye, they're going to be rested, they're going to be energized. I'm sure they've been studying Vance the past 2 weeks. They got a good game plan, ready to go for them. Vance, last week against South MEC, they got some different younger kids into the game working on their depth, and I think that's the first key for Vance is depth. Mallard Creek is so good, 2 and 3 deep into their roster at most of their positions, and that is the advantage they have over a lot of teams. It's just quality depth. They're able to sub in guys, keep them fresh. That's the battle Vance is going to have to sustain. How can they handle those waves and waves of fresh players coming onto the field, getting after them on the defensive and offensive lines especially. The player to watch, I think, for Vance is defensive end Steven Sings. Mallard Creek running this air raid offense. You think about air raid. First off, you think about sitting back, throwing the ball 60 times a game, but that's not what Mallard Creek does. They're physical. They can run the football as well as they throw it. And then a player like Sings, he's going to have to get pressure on the quarterback. He's Vance's best pass rusher, in my opinion. And if he can get pressure, that's going to affect, what Mallard Creek can do offensively. Also in the run game, he's going to have to be able to, hold up. It's going to be tough because, Mallard Creek's offensive line is huge and they come off the ball well. He's got to hold up against the run, shed those blocks and keep, plays that can go 6 or 7 yards to 3 and 4 yards. And then, try to keep Mallard Creek behind the chains a little bit. And it's a difficult task, but, he's a good player. He's committed to Virginia Tech, and I think he's up to the task. You flip it over for Mallard Creek. They got to contain Austin Greer in the pocket. There's one thing Mallard Creek has, had an issue with, and I say issue because relatively they don't have a lot of issues. But scrambling quarterbacks, you go back through the years, have kind of given, Mallard Creek trouble from time to time. And Austin Greer is definitely that. He can get out of the pocket, he can ad-lib and make plays on the run, and he throws very well on the run. And that's going to be a big key for Mallard Creek, keeping him contained, making him beat you from the pocket, because if once he starts getting out there, all of your rules and game plan stuff you working on goes out the window, because then it's just kind of like backyard football a little bit. But you look at the key player for Mallard Creek, I think it's the quarterback, Dustin Noller. You mentioned to me before we started this, his stats are just incredible. I can't remember a quarterback, for Mallard Creek having the kind of start to his career that, this young man has had. I go all the way back to Cam Newton 7-on-7 this summer. I watched this young man throw the football. He was pinpoint accurate back then, and I said, man, it's going to be some trouble. You put a guy with that kind of accuracy and arm strength with those Mallard Creek athletes at receiver, and then a good offensive system like the air raid, it can be deadly.
Well, and then he's got his Elijah Metcalf is his receiver.
There you go.
And he's got 8 of those touchdowns himself. So he's got, a steady hand to help him out, So they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a very good point right there. And he's a kid that I think is overlooked a little bit because you got so many star players over there, but he's definitely a player that, Vance is going to have to keep an eye on. Now, the interesting thing here is Vance's defense is so fast.
Right.
It's going to be a great test to see, how well can Vance's secondary hold up and give that defensive line and linebackers time to rush the quarterback.
Right.
If they can get a couple coverage sacks and knock Mallard Creek off of schedule when you're calling your plays and such, that's going to go a long way into, deciding who's going to win this game. Had a little bit of talk on social media about it. I think coming out, I think both teams are going to be kind of conservative. They're going to try to feel each other out a little bit, not take too many chances. But, of course, as the game goes along, I think things are going to open up a little bit. And then we're going to start seeing some big plays, possibly from both sides here. But there's a lot of information out on this game. Game is at 7 o'clock at Vance. Get there early. The gates are going to open at 5:30. If you can get there by 6, you might be able to park in the main lot. There's secondary lots beside Vance with the other 2 schools that are nearby. So there should be plenty of parking. You may have to walk a little bit, but the earlier you get there, the better. But it's going to be a great environment. And if you don't have anywhere to go Friday night, come out to Vance, because it's going to be great. And I'll tell you now, I'll be there. Brandon will be there. Our big game guy, Michael McCarver, will be there. This is a mega cast for CFI. But Cherie won't be there. She'll be somewhere else. But great game. We're very excited. And 2 great teams getting ready to go at it.
There you go. All right, 2-2 Mooresville travels to 1-3 North MEC. Mooresville won last week against A.L. Brown 30-0. North MEC beat Harding last week 24-15. What are your thoughts?
I'm gonna ask you what your thoughts are first.
My thoughts. So for me, North MEC, they had a solid plan when they came into the game. They definitely did some things on defense that did not play out well for Harding. They had this one guy, Songa Yates, I want to say his name was, who had a pick 6, and I think that pick 6 was essentially what put Harding away. He also, when they opened the second half, had a kickoff return, which I think kind of boosted their team up a little bit. It was a game that they needed to win, and they did.
Yeah. And that's well said. And he's actually the athlete to watch for North MEC, Songa Yates. And I watched some of those highlights, and then I watched some of his highlight tape. He is a very good player. I saw that pick 6. It was a bit of an overthrow. He caught it, reached up good, caught it, and took it to the house. When nobody was near him.
Yeah. Not even close.
And then kind of the same thing on the kickoff return. He had some good blocking, hit a seam, and then straight north and south. And that's what you like when you got a kid that's got some, real talent.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get north and south and not dance around like you see some guys and, try to make moves and all that. But he's the key player for North MECK. I think the key player for Mooresville is quarterback Hunter DiBerardino. It's his second year as varsity starter. Mooresville does some interesting things on offense, and to run that kind of system, you got to have a smart kid, handling the ball. And he's definitely that. I saw him, against West Rowan. I thought he handled the ball really well on some different snaps and handoffs and kind of things like that. They do a lot in that offense: jet sweeps, inside traps, toss sweeps, and then of course throwing the football down the field. So he does a lot, and he's a key player to watch for them. And you look at this game. Mooresville's coming off a bye, but that win over A.L. Brown was very impressive. That says a lot to their potential. And then North MECK's riding high, obviously getting their first win of the season, figuring some things out on defense. They were having trouble really stopping the run. And then, the slow Harding down, who had been running the ball really well, even in their loss to West Charlotte, they ran the ball well. That says a lot to, that coaching staff and the adjustments they made during their bye week. This is going to be I think it's going to be a good game right here. This is a big game. Both of these teams want to get to the playoffs. Both of these teams feel like this is a game they have to win to get there. And, of course, I think the winner of this game goes a long way in, solidifying a possible playoff spot because these conference wins are very valuable.
Mm-hmm. All right. 3-1 West Charlotte traveling to 3-1 Lake Norman. Last game for Lake Norman, they won over North Iredale 69-0. West Charlotte won their last game over Berry 58-19.
All right, you got two teams riding high here, both 3-1 in the pre-conference. This game over the past couple of years has been a real good game. These teams met in the first round of the playoffs last year. We were there. West Charlotte defeated Lake Norman then 14-7. I have no reason to think that this is going to be another close game between these two teams. I think either last year or 2 years ago, West Charlotte beat Lake Norman on a field goal up at Lake Norman. I think that was right at the buzzer too. So these two teams have played some really classic games here. So I have no reason to think this won't be another one of those. Key player for West Charlotte, I think, is cornerback Malcolm Breedlove. He's a very athletic player. He's a very confident player, and rightfully so. I think he's very talented. Lake Norman runs the flex bone offense, which is a lot of running, but they like to go play action. When you think, you can run, and then play action off of it, you can't go to sleep when you're playing that corner because that's when you give up that big play over the top. So, and then also coming up on run support on the outside run game is going to be very important here because Lake Norman has a big offensive line. And I think their key player is offensive lineman Peyton Davis. We talked to him in the preseason. A big, strong guard. Just nasty coming off the football. When you run that flex bone, that's what you got to have up front. He's a big key into what they like to do. So obviously West Charlotte has to stop the run. Lake Norman, they're going to have to find a way to stop the pass. When they played Statesville's probably the most comparable team to West Charlotte that they played. That was their one loss. Quarterback Silas Cruz last week threw for over 400 yards. And I think 5 touchdowns against Berry. So, yeah, they got some guys that can go get it at West Charlotte. So you got to contrast the styles here. And when you got to contrast the styles, whoever doesn't turn the football over usually wins. So this is going to be a good game at Lake Norman. I like this one. Big game for both teams here.
All right.
And that's our IMECK conference preview for this week. Thanks for watching.